Hi, this is Mark from Altcoin Buzz, and today we're going to take another look at Bitcoin as we start getting into the week and see what might be coming up with that. Also, we'll take a look at Bitcoin Cash after its big rise on the announcement of the hard fork, and we'll take a look at another coin which you may not be hearing a lot about, but looks like it is on a parabolic rise, and that's Chainlink. So we'll get into those right now. Okay, so let's start with Bitcoin on the USD 1 month chart. We just closed out the month on the 31st, and October actually closed lower than it has all year long by about $100. The lowest close that we had was in June, marked out by this green line here. You can see that we closed lower than that in October. Now that close was roughly $100 to the downside, so not a huge difference there, but it is something that we want to be aware of. Now, if we go down to the one-day chart, Bitcoin taking a nice rise today as we're speaking, still trading within the $6,200 and $6,500 range. Needs to break out of this resistance level that we have right here, this area that we dropped down from at the beginning of the week, sitting roughly around $6,500. That's where we'd want to settle in at, is right above that $6,500 range and get some support there. But that $6,600 to $6,200 is a very safe kind of accumulation range for us. That's where we've been in for a very long time. We have a wide accumulation range of 68 to 6,000 over many months, so that range is still kind of a safe accumulation range for us. Where we start getting nervous or a little bit unsafe is if we drop below that $6,000 range. You've heard a lot of people talk about we've got to really hit a bottom by going below the $6,000 before we can go up onto another bull run. That largely is probably based off the Wyckoff theory that you have a spring that retests prior swing lows, which would be in that $6,000 and $5,700 range back here. However, we've been able to maintain this trend line, so to get down to that spring doesn't necessarily have to happen. We talked about it in my previous video, the longer that we go sideways in this blue box range, the more bullish I become. You don't necessarily have to have a deep dip into a prior swing low to get that spring that you need. It also takes us out of that descending triangle that we've been looking at. And on a descending triangle, you don't necessarily have to have a huge jump up out of it or huge breakdown from it. You could theoretically trade sideways out of it. And that may be what we have that happens here, which would then be a very good confirmation that we're merely in a consolidation of accumulation. And while if we broke through this trend line that we've been following and hit down into $6,000, that still wouldn't make me nervous as long as we could spring back up. Where we start getting nervous is if we broke down off this trend line, hit in the $6,000 range and started using that as resistance, theoretically then bringing us into this $6,000 to $5,700 trading range, which would then make me very nervous because a breakdown of $5,700 takes us much, much lower and much faster. For those that were saying, is altcoin buzz ever negative? You've wrecked a lot of people. That's just simply not true. We've been talking about this bearish position for quite a long time. What I'm saying is the longer we trade sideways, the more bullish I become. For us to become bullish, we really have to get a higher low above $6,800 and a higher high above $7,300, and then we could start looking at more of a bullish uptrend and really calling a bull market on its way. Okay, so let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash has been on a massive rise over the last couple of days. Part of the reason for that is because Bitcoin Cash is going to do a hard fork. So let's just take a look real quick at what a fork is. And there's a difference between a soft fork and a hard fork. We'll talk about those two things. Bitcoin Cash is going through a hard fork. If we're looking at this diagram right now, this would be the diagram that we'd be looking at for a soft fork. And what we've got here is Bitcoin Cash, or whatever that coin is, just charges along its merry way on its path with its blockchain intact. And then there's a disagreement amongst the developers on which direction the development of that coin should go. And in a soft fork, there is a consensus on the direction. And so the new protocol gets forked off. It's a soft fork in the sense that the old protocol drops off and the new protocol continues on. In the case of a hard fork, the coin is going along its merry way. There is a disagreement among the developers on how to develop that coin and what path it should take. There is no resolution, so then there becomes a hard fork where there are two different protocols being run, or programs, if you will, and then one of them becomes the dominant one and the other one ends up falling off. So that's what we have the case of Bitcoin Cash right now. There is a very hard split amongst the developers on what direction Bitcoin Cash should take. There will be two different paths that they take as far as development goes. And so then you end up with two different coins. One potentially would dominate the other one with community support and involvement and acceptance, the other one becoming the stepchild, or both could live on strongly, but usually the case is that one ends up being the more dominant of the two. Okay, so here we are in the Bitcoin Cash USD 4-hour chart. And the reason I drew out the 4-hour chart is just to give you an idea of where some of the trend lines would be set for Bitcoin Cash. You can see that we had this descending trend line going on, and we broke out of that over the last couple days. This was an increase of roughly 35% just over the last few days. The hard fork comes into play on November 15th. Now, Binance and Coinbase will both support the hard fork. What that means is they will take a snapshot of all the Bitcoin Cash wallets in the system, and essentially after that happens and the fork happens, you will have two different coins, Bitcoin Cash 1, Bitcoin Cash 2, call it. Now theoretically, the resistance line that Bitcoin Cash would have had was back here, basically at this previous swing high, and another resistance area over here in this August time frame, sitting at about 568. If we take a look at the volume, we continue to have volume coming into Bitcoin Cash. Where will this end? Well, theoretically, you could have another resistance area back up here at 640. If we take a look back at the VPVR, we're hitting a high volume node area in this area of potential resistance, and there isn't much again back until we get to 630. If we could break out of this 568, call it 570. Getting up to that 630 area wouldn't be too difficult. What I'd be looking for is to see whether there ends up being a little bit of a pullback down into the 538 range, 550 range before going back up through there. But with the volume continuing to come into Bitcoin Cash, the chances of breaking right through this are pretty high. Let's just go down to the lower time frames to see if we still have continued momentum, which we do. So could that 628, 630 happen here over the next couple days? Theoretically, there isn't much resistance past where we're at right now if the volume continues to come into Bitcoin Cash to see that happen. That would be an increase of another 10-11%. The next area that you'd be looking at is resistance at around $700. The challenge here with this kind of movement and momentum is a lot of people buying into the FOMO, right? That's the thing that you want to be careful of, is are you one of the ones that's going to end up buying as the momentum slows down and on a retrace? The entry on a pullback would be in that 530 area. The entry, if it continues to move forward, be somewhere in that 580 range. We're looking at potential resistance at 630 again, and then again at $700. So the potential play would be to wait and see if it pulls back. If it doesn't, jump somewhere in at that 595 range where you had that previous swing high right back in here in September. See how it reacts to the 628 area, and then again up into that $700 range, and then certainly watch it after the fork happens on the 15th. Okay, so another one we're going to look at is one that's been on the rise for the last month or so. Chainlink, we're on CoinGecko.com right now. You can see it's sitting at about 51 cents, close to there. Over the last 30 days, up 60% and available on a number of different exchanges. Has a very high rating overall by CoinGecko. Here are some of the coins that it's similar to. So you've got Stellar, Ethereum, Tron, and Neo. And now we're looking at the chart on TradingView right now on the 12-hour chart. It's really a coin that is facilitating, as my understanding, to be able to use a smart contract built on Ethereum and for businesses to exchange and interact with it in the fiat world. So you've got a blockchain technology. It makes it a real easy way to interact as a business with the Ethereum smart contracts in a fiat world. Hopefully that makes sense. Here's where you start to look at a coin that's going fairly parabolic and on a very strong chart. We got the original trend line in the green here, but then it started moving very quickly, and we had to draw a new supporting trend line in the orange, and now we've had to draw a third one in the red. And you can see that those angles continue to increase. We've had some resistance here at about 55 cents, and we're sitting at about 51 now. That makes sense with the prior high back in here. And if we look at the VPVR, where we're trading right now is still in the area where 75% of the volume has happened on this coin, on Chainlink. Once it can break out of this prior swing high trading range right in here, the top of it being about 58 cents, there's very little resistance above that. So theoretically, it should be a very quick rise if it can break out of the 58 cent area to get back up to this prior swing high back in here of about 87 cents. Our first stop may be back just a little bit lower than that at 73 or 74, but then again, back in here, it's had some action, and it shouldn't be too tough to get through there if we can break through this resistance of 58. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud on the 12-hour, everything lines up very strong. You've got continued consolidation above the cloud, then breaking above the moving averages, consolidating for a little bit, breaking above the moving averages and consolidating again. Looks like we're just in another consolidation area right now. So we want to continue to find support here in this 49.50 area as just a consolidation to continue back up on the upswing. A breakdown of that would be trying to find support at the 45 range. And if we couldn't stay there, then we could see a breakdown of this chart. But right now, this chart looks very good. So that's Chainlink for you. So that's going to wrap it up for today. We gave you a couple extras in this segment. Sorry it went a little long. Hopefully this helps you out. Please leave your comments below and hit that like, subscribe button, and the alert button, that little bell, so you know when these videos pop up. Also visit us on altcoinbuzz.io for all those articles that come out throughout the day from our talented writers that keep you on top of everything that's going on in crypto. And until next time, may all your trades be good ones.